Save the Semantics, episode 219. It is July 20th, 2023. My name is Myro. This is the podcast where I ramble on for a bit about some shit. It's been a little bit since I've recorded, a couple weeks. I also just realized when I was looking through my audio logs on the recording app, I realized that and then also looking at the, my podcast site, I realized I didn't post last time's episode. So it has been a minute since I've uploaded anything because I forgot to post it, and that's on me. I thought I did too. I thought I was like, I'm gonna do this before I leave on my trip, and I didn't end up posting it. So I'm gonna do that tonight for sure. So it's a pretty juicy one. I got recordings over like an hour, so pretty significant. That's like a pretty hefty podcast for me. So significant amount of content for that one. So stay tuned. That's gonna come out. Obviously, by the time this is out, that one is already out, so it doesn't really matter too much. But anyways, it's been a little while since I've recorded. I've been kind of busy with some stuff. I came back from a trip this past weekend. Went to a wedding. That was nice. Very much enjoyed my time there. And right now I'm kind of tired. I'm sort of like, it's already been a few days since I've gotten back, but I'm still sort of in like recovery mode in a weird way. It might just be the fact that my sleep schedule has been kind of it's always the sleep schedule. It always is. The fact that it's always just kind of wonky and not super consistent, kind of shitty right now. So I'm a little lethargic, trying to catch up, trying to make sure that I get the proper amount of sleep. Like today, I just was like, I just want to take a nap. Like it's like at 3:00 or something. I'm just like, I want to take a fucking nap. And right now, I'm kind of want to take a nap too. I'm a little tired. So yeah, it is what it is. This is also like an adjustment, is like going back into the gym and then like working out and having that as part of like my routine. I was initially planning to go today, but I was like, dude, I am so sore and I just don't have like the energy to do it. I found that exercising is good, but forcing myself to exercise honestly makes it kind of worse. Like it makes me feel worse, and it's not like a thing where I have to practice, you know what I mean? Like it's not like I'm in school anymore or on a team or training or whatever. I don't have to train every day. I can just kind of like do what I want, you know. And in some cases, sure, that can backfire where I'm a little too lax and I'm not keeping up in shape. But I honestly feel like it's better for me not to force the issue and to just be like, all right, whatever. So I'm just gonna, you know, find the other time instead to do that, instead of, you know, I guess making myself more sore in the process. Because like I'm really sore, man. Like I think I didn't realize that I put in like a pretty significant workout on Tuesday, and so I was like like the effects of that are still like waning on me. And I guess like going on that run yesterday was sort of, you know, kind of added on to that. So yeah, I'm a little tuckered out, man. So it could be just the effects of that, and also just the fact that I didn't sleep super great. So I feel that I should be rested enough to get back into kind of working out and all that. So it is what it is. What was I gonna say? Not a whole lot going on this week. Really it's just getting back into the swing of things. It's like I said when I came back from my last trip, it's really difficult for me to get back into, you know, work mode. And especially if things are kind of picking up on my end in work, and I've just found it very difficult to stay motivated and stay like focused and shit. It's been really hard. Like this week, like it's been a pretty solid week. Like I've felt good, and I have accomplished some things. I've moved some stuff along, but I just it's still like I'm still like, am I really doing anything right now? I feel like I feel like I'm really just taking my time going through the motions. And so I don't know. I'm sure that I'm just being, kind of harder on myself, but it has felt difficult to stay on task and to stay focused and not distracted and all that. So yeah, yeah, that's kind of my spiel with work and everything, and getting into getting back into like a steady schedule and all that. I have picked up on Persona, and that's been fun. I've reached a very integral, a very significant part of the story, and I'm back in it. I'm intrigued. I'm excited to see where this goes. It feels like there is like a shift in the pace of the game, which I am welcome for. I do enjoy kind of the the day-to-day sort of aspect of things, of figuring out, optimizing what to do, which characters to interact with, what activities you should do to kind of like build out your kind of skill abilities and all that stuff. I think that's fun. I think that's pretty cool. But sometimes it does get a little repetitive in a sense, where I feel that there needs to be, some of it I think can be cut back in a sense. I think there are a lot of moments where it's just kind of like, okay, it feels like I am kind of repeating a lot of the same actions, you know what I mean? I think some of that fat could have been trimmed, in my opinion. I guess this is kind of going into some of the criticisms that I have of the game. I think that, and I think an easy way to do it is to just kind of like eliminate. One, I would say like get rid of like, just kind of like take out some days that are like shorten the amount of time that you have to complete a palace or whatever. It's like, so instead of like, I don't know, instead of 21 days, you have 21 days until the deadline. It's like, cut it to like, I don't know, 14 or something, make that shit shorter. I think that would like help pick up the pace of the game, because there are just like, because if I can imagine speedrunning this game. It could be kind of easy if you just default to doing nothing for an entire day. Like the game does give you that option, but I feel that it is a lot of just a lot of it is very kind of mundane stuff, which is fine. Like, it's chill. I enjoyed that aspect, but I think that in terms of the pace of the game, in terms of moving through the story, I think some of that could be potentially trimmed down. I also think that there are some characters that I feel could be potentially removed altogether. I think that their functionality is not super integral to the story, and they don't really add a whole lot of value. I'm talking like side characters. I'm talking, NPCs that provide certain like quest lines, or can provide certain abilities, but a lot of those are not super interesting, and like it's just kind of like, okay, that's kind of cool. So I think some of those characters can just sort of be taken out altogether. Maybe just like a few or a couple can be just sort of removed, and I think that would kind of help round out the experience a little bit more, so you can kind of like, instead of like juggling all of these characters and their interactions, you're like, oh shit, who should I optimize? Should I optimize this one to progress their storyline, even though the skill that I obtained from them isn't that like important, or doesn't really help me in the long run? Or should I focus on this character where like the skill they provide is like super, like really is strong and worthwhile? Because there are like, the ones that matter in my opinion are of course like the party characters, the characters that are in your party directly, and then also the ones who provide really good kind of like bonus abilities, like, oh, the characters in on your bench receive the same amount of characters that are in the main party. Like, that's huge, that's like a massive thing. And so I focused on completing that character's kind of arc and their whole like chain, as opposed to others, just because I think that's like super useful. But then I'm like missing out on like maybe like a potentially interesting storyline. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It feels that, and I'm sure the developers were thinking that, you're not going to be able to necessarily 100% this game. I think it requires like multiple playthroughs to be able to see every single scenario and to see every type of interaction. But I think that if you like, I don't really like, after I complete this one playthrough, I don't really see myself coming back to this game. Like, I think that once I complete main story and kind of in typical fashion, I don't think I'm going to revisit this game to replay it, just because it's also really long, and that kind of ties into the cutting back on the number of days that you need to complete a mission and all that shit that I mentioned. But I just don't like, I think it would be cool to be able to try to get the most out of it in a single play through, as opposed to multiple. So yeah, that's kind of my feelings towards it. But I am in a really interesting part of the story now, where I feel like things are kind of picking up and things are like very intriguing. There are some twists and turns, and I'm kind of excited to see where that goes. So I'm gonna play that tonight to continue forward on that storyline, because I think that I'm just interested in seeing where the story takes us. So that's kind of what my thoughts on Persona at the moment. And like I mentioned, I also have a lot of games on my plate that I want to kind of get into later this year. There are a lot of other story-based games that I'm intrigued for. What would be the correct? I'm intrigued about, I think it would be the better phrasing. One game that kind of like came to my attention, and maybe I've touched upon this before, but is a game called Ghost Trick. I remember this game coming out on the DS, and I remember hearing about a lot of the praise that the game got. I remember specifically, I used to be subscribed to Nintendo Power back in like middle school, and so I received like the magazines and shit like that. That was like a really that was a really great kind of like moment, is every month receiving like a Nintendo Power reading up. Like, I just remember rereading certain issues over and over again. I remember specifically like the Skyward Sword edition. That was a huge thing. It was just the cover. It was the cover title. There was a pretty big article on it about just the new mechanics and the world and shit. That was just getting me like more excited for the game to come out and all that. But I do remember one of the issues was there was like a section that was talking about Ghost Trick, and so I remember that very kind of vividly in my mind, and just hearing, just kind of seeing like, I don't remember if like the developer was talking about it or whatever, but there was like it was just talking about the mechanics of the game, the kind of the storyline a little bit. Yeah, I just thought it was really interesting. It was sort of in the same vein, or similar vein to like some other mystery kind of games. I think there was another game on the DS that was like 999 or something like that. So that one and Ghost Trick are both games that I was interested in. Kind of puzzle mystery games. I never got around to playing either of those, but now that Ghost Trick is on the Switch, now I have I have the opportunity to do so. So that's a game that I've heard really good things about. I've heard that the story is very engaging, which I story is important for me. So I think that's something that I would be interested in taking a look at. Also developed by the same guy who created the Ace Attorney series, so that's a big plus. I love I've played the first two games of Ace Attorney, from the collection on the Switch. So, and I've really enjoyed those. So I feel that I would also be. I think I would also enjoy my time with this one as well. So, once again, we got another game. Got another game on the backlog of games that I want to play. I heard it's also kind of short too, so I could do it like in, multiple play sessions, or a few play sessions instead of having a super long extended playthrough. So I think that could be something that I might pick up in the near future, just because I'll probably need something to break up the in between of these kind of long back-to-back games, right? I just recently beat Tears of the Kingdom, currently playing through Persona. I don't know if I necessarily want to jump into another RPG that soon. It'll depend on how I feel. So I think maybe this game could be kind of that perfect sort of in between the next game, which could be whatever, I don't know, Nier, or what else is there? There's a lot of other shit out there for sure. So I think that it seems really cool. It seems really up my alley. And I'm interested in checking that out. Other than that, what else has been going on? Not a whole lot. I haven't really watched any shows recently. Wow, what a surprise. You haven't watched any shows? I just, it's just Better Call Saul. There's a lot out there. I feel like I need someone to be like, hey, listen, man, I need someone to motivate me. I need someone to provide an incentive for me to get back into watching a show. There has to be some kind of listen, this series is really worth it. But I also don't want to subscribe to another streaming service because it just doesn't. I can't really even if it is, whatever, I can afford to do it, but I just don't feel like it's worth it right now because I don't spend time watching anything. So it's why I'm putting more money in this shit and I'm not using it to watch the programs that I paid for. It's what am I spending money on? You know what I mean? I'm just kind of throwing it away a little bit. Maybe some other people have different perspective on that, but that's how I feel. So I know there's a lot of good shit out there. I know. I just need to. Someone needs to tell me to watch it. I can't just do it by myself, I guess. So yeah, that's gonna do it for this. I was gonna say midweek, kind of midweek, right? It's a Thursday today, so I'll provide an update this weekend. Talk about some shit that I may have seen, or whatnot. Oh yeah, you know what's out? Oppenheimer. That whole Oppenheimer Barbie double feature thing is a huge thing. So, am I gonna do that? Am I gonna do a back-to-back feature? No, I don't think I am. But I may watch one of those. I may watch Oppenheimer in the future because Chris Nolan and all that. So, that could be something that I might do later. But anyways, most likely be recording on Sunday. All right, it is July 23rd, 2022. It is a Sunday, a lovely Sunday afternoon that I'm just kind of taking in and trying to enjoy. I've had a good weekend, but I feel kind of you know what I mean? It's one of those things where I've had a solid weekend. it was nice to catch up with people and shit, but I just feel kind of weird. I think it's also due to the fact that I kind of slept like shit last night. Like I could not. It was like 3 a.m. and I was like struggling to go to sleep, which was not great. I was like, I'm trying to, I'm trying to sleep well on the weekends, man. Like this is not ideal. So I definitely feel a little lethargic, and I just was like, it was one of those things where it's like, I was just struggling to go to sleep, and it was like I had some, like, not to get too deep into it, but I have moments where it's like sometimes whatever thoughts, intrusive thoughts that I have just kind of creep in, and it just completely like fucks me up, and then I just cannot for the life of me get through it. Like I cannot sleep well at all, you know what I mean? And that kind of sucks. So yeah, it was just one of those nights, and I was just like, man, it happens when I'm like really tired too. It's like I mean, it could just be me not being able to sleep well in general, you know what I mean? It's just sort of like when I'm tired and or something, and if I try to force the issue, then it just kind of makes it worse. And so I think that was kind of like the case that what happened last night. So I'm a little tired for sure. I'm in a better mood now than I was like earlier. I went to the gym, I worked out. That always helps. I think really trying to be more active in general, whatever that may be, like instead of lounging around, as as tempting as it is to lounge around on a Sunday, on a weekend, I really feel that putting some effort into exercising in any way, shape, or form, I think helps out like a lot in terms of just my feeling better. So I'm really trying to continue that, and I think that when things get really busy for me later this year, maybe in like a couple months, I want to try to be consistent with working out and exercising. I think that's going to be like a huge help during that period. So it'll be hard for sure. It'll definitely be really hard to fit that in into my schedule, but I really want to try my best to do that, just because I think that exercise is huge. I think that coming from back in high school when I exercised, and I ran literally every day to certain points where I have been, for the most part, I've been consistently active to an extent, but I still feel that I can be better. I want to try to do shit like every day in a way. I want to try to do whatever it is. Maybe I'll have like a rest day, once in a while, but I want to do, like, if I'm not running, I want to be walking. If I'm not, on days where I feel that I don't have the energy to go to the gym, I'll be doing something else. Like, I just want to try to do shit. I just want to keep active. I think that's really important to me. And just kind of my overall well-being. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm doing all right. Not great, but doing okay for the most part. Not a whole lot to really catch up on this weekend. I've been just really chilling. Again, like I said, I've been, catching up with some friends and whatnot, so that's been good. I've sort of reached towards, I believe I'm nearing kind of the end of Persona, like I mentioned, so I'm continuing to play that. And I'm really thinking, I mentioned Ghost Trick earlier about that's kind of one of those games that I want to sort of play. And I was thinking about that, and earlier this year, if you remember, the Wii U and 3DS eShop closed. That was a whole thing that was like going on. That was a whole, debacle and everything like that. So I have an idea. So I picked up 3 games, right? One of them I mentioned was that hockey, what the fuck was it, pocket jockey game that I was like addicted for like a couple weeks, right? And there was two more that I mentioned. One of them was like this kind of like a rhythm game where you're like a blacksmith and you like build shit. And then another one is like a really short game. It was like Attack of the Friday Monsters, and I kind of want to play that. I think a really short narrative driven game I think will be like perfect and right up my alley. It'll be cool to really just kind of like I bought, along with those games, I also bought Fates, the Fates DLC, Revelations, right, and Conquest. That's kind of pricey. I'm surprised the price of those didn't like go down at all. And I don't know if I'll I don't know if I will get into those anytime soon, but it is on that I guess you consider it's on the backlog, because it's that, and then it's also like with like Fire Emblem, I have a lot that I still kind of have left to do in terms of completing games and shit like that. Three Houses, I only did one of the routes. I part of me does want to do the other two. I guess there's technically three. I mean, there's primarily two left. But yeah, it's just like, I don't know. It's hard to. I've mentioned this with Three Houses, but it's a little hard to repeat kind of the same storyline again and do all of like the monastery shit. I thought that part it was fun, it was cool, and I think this sort of relates a bit to kind of my feelings and kind of criticisms with Persona as well, because that kind of follows a similar thing where you're on a schedule, and on a week to week basis you sort of follow similar steps and do similar tasks to kind of build repertoire with your teammates, with your units, in the case of Fire Emblem. And I feel that doing that in Three Houses is gonna be a bit of a drag, especially going through it two more additional times. So that's kind of my issue with that game in particular, and wanting to replay it. I think with the Fates games, there's a bit more of a difference. Like the first, like, what, 7 chapters or something are kind of the same, but from that point on you kind of go in a different direction. And I think it's common, it's a common notion, and a common sort of like like Conquest is commonly praised for its gameplay, and I do kind of want to check it out and see how that goes. And then I also want to see, apparently people say Revelations is not good, and so part of me is like a little curious to see how that goes. And I've also heard that it gets like really fan servicey and shit in terms of like bringing all of these characters like kind of together and stuff like that. So that could be interesting. So again, just more shit on the backlog, but I do want to try out that Attack of the Friday Monsters game. That's like a shorter game, so I might pick that up. Not pick it up, but maybe dive into it later once I kind of get through Persona. But here's the thing: I don't like know how much more I have. It feels like I'm getting towards the end, but I really don't know, because right now my playtime is like 70 hours, which is like pretty substantial. But when I look at like the average playtime, it's like 90 to like 100. So I'm like, what the there's gotta be like more shit than this, unless I played it like really quickly. But I feel like I've taken my time with it, you know what I mean? I feel that I've really invested time into developing the characters and shit like that. So I don't know, I'm a little, I don't really know how much more I got in this game, but I'm enjoying it. I like I think I think where I'm at in the game is interesting. I mentioned this last time, in terms of like how the story has developed. And I'm interested to see how it kind of wraps up, and I feel that it could end on a pretty good note. So I'm excited to kind of see that through. Other things, the Women's World Cup started up last week, or I guess like a few days ago. And I've caught some of the games, and that's been exciting. Some good stuff there. I think that it's interesting how it's interesting how like strong the U.S. women's soccer team is. I just think it's so it's so interesting how they're very like they've been the defending champs for like 3 years, or three, not 3 years, but for the last like three World Cups or something, right? I just like I'm really like, I'm sure there's definitely like a history to it and everything, but I'm just curious as to like why that is, like why the women's team specifically is so strong and why our men's team is not up to that level. Like I just don't. It's such a interesting kind of dichotomy. Um, like it's like, okay, you would sort of expect, if a country's team, regardless of their gender, is good, you would sort of expect it to be the same for the other one as well. So I don't know. It's just kind of weird. I don't really get it. It does. So I feel like I might need to look into that a little bit. I think it could be just due to the fact that how the women's team approaches it is, better suited than how the men's team approaches it. I really don't know though. I really don't know. I just think it's really fascinating. Um, just how much of a difference there is, because the U.S. team in the last World Cup, they did okay. I think they performed somewhat above expectations, but ultimately they kind of faltered, and they lost to I believe it was the Netherlands, right? And it was clear like which one was like the better team. So I just thought it was I feel it's I want to root for the U.S. men's team in that sense, just because it doesn't feel they've ever really been at like a high level. I don't know. I think I think there's potential for there to be growth and shit like that. And also on top of, I think a big thing, I feel this could be like a big development in terms of, bringing up like, or raising kind of I don't know about awareness, but bringing more attention to soccer and football in general, is the fact that Messi is playing in the MLS. I think that's huge. That first game apparently was pretty crazy. I saw the highlight where he scored like the game-winning goal, in extra time, which I thought was pretty crazy. Like that game, I'm assuming it just like lived up to the hype of everything, which I think is pretty cool. And I know there was like a shit ton of people there in attendance, like David Beckham. I think he has like ownership, right, of Miami. And who else? Yeah, LeBron and shit. Like a bunch of people were there, so I think that's it's cool. It's cool to see, and hopefully that, I guess, inspires maybe or motivates people to really invest into soccer, because right now it's like soccer is not it's not really a major sport for our country. Like we have our big four, right? We got basketball, hockey, baseball, and football. Like those are kind of our big four. Maybe we can get soccer up to that level. I just don't know if that's, it's going to be difficult. But, considering the figure that Messi is and how much of an influence he has, it's possible that that could really strum up much more interest in the sport, and people being like, oh, okay, so it's not just going to be 0-0. I know, even though I say that shit too, you know what I mean? Well, it's not just going to be like 0-0 every game. I think there is more to soccer, and I think there's more of a potential to just have for the league to grow. So yeah, hopefully there is, hopefully that invites more fans into the football / soccer community in the US, just because I think that shit is kind of lacking. It just does not feel like, if you look at games in Europe or in Mexico, it's just the activity and stuff is just to a whole nother level. I went to my first international game a little while back with Mexico and Honduras, and that atmosphere is really something, and I haven't really seen that replicated on the MLS stage. To be fair, I've only really gone to I haven't really gone to too many games per se, and I haven't really gone to too many like significant games, but I feel that atmosphere is something that is like really exciting to be a part of. And so hopefully, fans can kind of see that. Fans will really want to be part of this kind of community in a sense, and there's more camaraderie and shit. You're chanting, you're singing songs and all that. Like, you don't really get that with other sports in American sports. Like, I love basketball, but basketball, like, crowds are not, like, generally speaking, I feel like they're not super strong. Baseball, you can't even really, no disrespect, but it's just not, the sport doesn't, like, it's just not for that kind of thing, you know what I mean? Football, of course, you got some crazy fans, but it's just not the same. It's not the same. It's different, you know what I mean? I think just football / hockey just brings a different energy, especially with, other, foreign nations and shit. So I don't know, hopefully that type of feeling starts to spread and starts to take a little more root in the US, because I think that could lead to more excitement. I think a huge thing is the World Cup that's going to happen in 2026 in the Americas, right? In Canada, in the US, and then in Mexico. Like, I think those ones could really be like massive, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know, I think there's just a lot of potential there to really like grow and like kind of like invest like a future in the sport. So I don't know, I think there's just a lot to really take into consideration there. That's kind of how I'm feeling at the moment, after watching kind of the Women's World Cup and kind of thinking about the future of American soccer, American football. That's kind of what I've been thinking. Some exciting stuff there. Other than that, it's been a quiet weekend. I'm just gonna try to enjoy it for what I can, with what I have, with the time that I have, and just get over this weird little hump that I'm sort of feeling right now. I'm doing all right. I'm doing fine. I'm just sort of feeling I guess. But I'll get over it. Anyways, thanks for listening to this week's episode. This has been Save the Semantics, signing off.